thank you for the invitation, and I would like to share with you today a research project we just completed, and we still work on it to further promote it and understand the mechanisms behind it. It's about utilizing virtual classroom simulation in a teacher training context. The challenges we face usually when training prospective teachers is that we expose them to certain number of contexts, and but in reality they have to teach in various contexts. Most of them are usually unfamiliar for them. So unfortunately, in practicum classes, we have a very limited number of familiar contexts for them. So we wanted to increase these opportunities for them to explore. Another thing which is less explored is the emotions that teachers experience when teaching in contexts. Especially with this COVID period, a lot of things turn to be at a distance, and people try to understand how to do this online. And one of the most fragile topics was the practicum course, because all the schools were closed and they didn't have any experience. So we decided to turn this into an advantage and design a kind of a virtual environment so that they can practice their practicum classes and experience variety of context with Loughborough University with the funding from British Council as well. And today I would like to talk about this, how we integrated the virtual class into teaching practicum classes. So the main concept was to provide prospective teachers a kind of challenging situations under various emotional stimuli, and how they develop their teaching skills in these environments. I will briefly describe this environment shortly, but the main idea is that there are virtual students in this environment which behave with AI-based stimuli. But one of the challenges we had in this project was to collect and analyze appropriate data so that we could provide feedback to prospective teachers so that they can, they can develop their professional careers in teaching. So this platform is called a serious game, and it's called SimInClass. This is an existing platform that had been developed by a colleague of mine, and I shared the website underneath, and if you would like to go and look at it, you're welcome, and you can practice how it looks like by yourself. This is a virtual classroom basically designed to provide classroom management strategies for prospective teachers in a game-based environment. So there are very optional authoring tools within it, where you can design your own class, seating plans, various scenarios, and feedback with whatever you would like to provide. And it's an open environment. But before I go into the details, let me briefly show you the levels in this platform. In the first level, basically the classroom management process has been observed, and the teacher is requested to respond to students' responses. And the students behave, as I mentioned earlier, with an AI-based stimuli. And in the second one, classroom management skills in virtual classrooms, where teacher control AI-based students. So in the first one, you just follow the rules. And in the second one, input is requested from the prospective teachers or the game players, whoever is the user. And based on the options, you make a choice based on the actions. And then depending on your choice, the game-like environment provides you feedback by giving you scores and etc. And also there is a cave version of it. A cave is a kind of three walls projected in those walls. and you stand in the front, and you can see the class in front of you in 3 corners, and it gives a more immersive environment, so to speak. But there was a missing link in this platform, which was the recommendation part. So you are playing the game, you are giving input to the system, but it's not for pedagogical purposes. So we wanted to explore this in this research, and collaborated with the company to incorporate the recommendation. Some screenshots from the class, and you can design your students by yourself. You can choose what kind of personalities you would like to have in your class to practice. So the procedures started from developing the instructional scenarios to the utilizing recommendation system. In the first one, as I mentioned earlier, we wanted to provide a variety of settings for prospective teachers. In the second one, which was one of the most challenging one, is to develop a classroom discourse. In the game-like environment, students did not speak. The only interaction was text-based, and teacher was only asked to select the appropriate responses. So we examined the discourse patterns in the classroom, and we developed a dialogue scheme by analyzing those discourse patterns, so that in the classes, students had to interact with the prospective teachers in a spoken way. This integration had been completed with the simulator, and the parts of the course, like introduction, development, summary, giving a homework, those intelligent agents produced appropriate discourses in different moods. This could be positive, negative, or neutral mood. So our purpose was to explore their emotional responses. So that's why we wanted to change students' mood as well. So another challenge was to detect prospective teachers' emotions when they respond to AI-based agents. So we used different tools to observe it. One of them was face expressions. Face expressions returned us some emotional stances of the prospective teachers, but this is one of the most intriguing part, because some researchers approach with a kind of caution when using this facial expressions. So that's why we incorporated other tools as well. EEG and GSR are physiological measurement tools to observe emotional stances. And then we developed a kind of a mood state emulator, so that when prospective teachers play the game, we could hit one of those emotional stances, so that students' discourse could be returned by the selected button. So if we said happiness, the virtual student would speak to the prospective teachers in a happy manner. And then finally, we developed a recommendation system. I would briefly show you how it looked like. There were rules in this recommendation system. So we collected data on how prospective students responded to the agents and how they were carrying those emotions with them. So when they finished teaching, we provided them an interface where they could see their behaviors, the panel, and the emotional changes through time. So those were the classroom behaviors on the left, the students' misbehaviors mostly, or any behavior. For example, if he is listening, sleeping, speaking to a friend, taking a photo in the class, whatever. So those were the selected behaviors in teaching period. And these are the experienced emotions throughout a time series. And then we gave students some feedback about how they did in this process. So when they came to each circle, as you can see, there are different tones in the color. So those colors show the intensity of the mood they had in the process. And finally, they had given some responses, feedback responses individually. So those are the discourses. They could explore the recommendation based on their interaction discourse patterns. And they could see for each class period so that they can explore them one by one. And the findings, usually we presented the findings in various representations. The observed emotions, as you can see, tended to decrease toward the end of the course. If this is a kind of 40-minute teaching, they started with a high impetus and then decreased in time. And the frequency of experienced emotions increased in time periods covering the introduction and lecture times. Anger and surprise were experienced in certain time periods, and disappointment was the least experienced emotion in their teaching. And happiness and neutral emotions had highly been experienced throughout their teaching. And then we also looked at the emotional changes throughout time. And those discourse initiation and requests usually led to more mood changes in prospective teachers. So there are many others, but I would like to take much of your time. But to conclude, simulation applications in education require a complex and interdisciplinary process. As you could see, it's not only one-man show. It requires really a good design and content management. It may not seem economical at first glance, and it can serve as the basis for the production of innovative technologies. We never claim, in the call community as well, we don't aim at replacing classroom education. It's always complementary, and field and task-specific needs are also to be incorporated into those virtual classrooms as well. So let me close the talk here, and if you have any questions and recommendations, I would be happy to